How much does probate cost? Hi, I'm John from Owns Estate Planning, and I'm going to answer that very question in this video. So probate, first of all, is a term that the public tend to give to the whole process of sorting out a person's estate from the minute they've passed away until the minute everything's been given out to the loved ones who have been appointed in the will to be beneficiaries. In the legal industry, probate really is just referring to the initial process of getting permission from the courts as the executor to then start speaking to the banks and selling property and things like that. But for the purposes of the video, we'll refer to probate as the entire process. Now, the cost of that is very, very, very difficult to explain in detail, but at least I can give you a little bit of an idea of what goes into making these costs up. So obviously sometimes people do probate themselves, but they've still got certain costs that are going to have to be paid regardless. You know, they'd be paying the solicitors this cost, or they'd be paying it to the relevant people anyway. So things like there's court fees and swearing fees to swear the oath and things like that when you're applying the grant of probate. Once the grant's being granted to you, if you're trying to sell a house for somebody, there'll be fees for conveyance, there'll be fees for land registry fees for transferring the property. There could be all sorts of professional fees, estate agent fees and things like that. These are third-party costs or disbursements. That's how we refer to them. Now, that's one side, and they're going to be whatever they're going to be. But at least you can kind of start getting into your head, well, I've got these different costs to consider. The other side of things are if you're going to employ a professional firm to handle the whole aspect of it, then we can have a little look now at kind of what fees are involved for doing that. Now, unfortunately, these can vary massively. You might find one case would be quoted £1,000 by one person, £20,000 by another. That's just really down to the greed of the company doing it. But essentially, the basics involved are pretty much going to be the same. And how that's charged for is based on two different systems. One will be charged on the percentage of the value of the estate, so they might charge 3% of the estate value. Or the other option would be that you look at all the work required and you say, right, well, that's going to take us X number of hours, our hourly rate is X, so we're going to be charging you this amount of money. Now, that first option, charging a percentage of the estate, I don't think really is particularly fair. If you look at an estate worth £300,000 and you're going to charge 3% of the estate value, that's a £9,000 fee. And it might be that in that estate, the only thing that's in there is a £300,000 house. So other than filling out some tax forms and then obviously going through the process of selling the house, it's a relatively straightforward case. Or you might find another case which is only for an estate worth £200,000, which has tons and tons and tons and tons of stuff involved, lots of shares and savings and accounts and all these kind of different things that require huge amounts of paperwork. So it wouldn't really be fair to charge based purely on a percentage of the estate, I don't think. Personally, the better option, I think, and one that I think you should insist on, is that somebody looks at all the different elements in that case and charges you based on the amount of work that's required rather than any values of the estate. So they're the two main options, but like I say, it's very difficult without looking at each individual case to tell you what's involved. So really it's just a case of finding someone that you trust, getting them to look at all the different elements in the case and quoting you on that, and using your gut feel as to whether or not you think that's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. If not, then obviously get quotes from multiple firms and see how you feel about that particular firm, because sometimes cheapest isn't always best, just like expensive isn't always the best. So it's got to be a bit of gut instinct combined with the quotes they're charging you and how you feel about them as to whether or not you think it's the right people to go with. But there isn't really a science to it. It really comes down to each individual case, how much work's involved as to how much it's going to cost.